Before we start, Claire and Matt, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. You're all set.
I'll call the North Smithfield School Committee meeting of February 21st, 2023 to order. Clerk, please call the roll. Present.
Here. Here.
We have 4 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So let's start off with the fiscal year 22 financial statements presentation. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening. My name's Cheryl Lanchman from Bacon and Company. I'm the audit manager on your engagement, and behind me is Pat Boucher, the audit partner. So hopefully everyone has you should have received your school financial statements, possibly the town financial statements, I'm not sure, and a letter from us. So I'll start with your school financial statements, because I know that's what you're most interested in. So pages 1 to 3 is the audit opinion, which was unmodified this year. On pages 4 and 5, the balance sheet and the income statement, basically, you'll see the school unrestricted fund ended the year with a fund balance of almost $1.8 million. Of that amount, $1.4 million was restricted for education programs, $261,000 for field maintenance, $51,000 for preschool, and then $25,000 for extraordinary special education costs. The school restricted fund, which is basically your grants, your school lunch fund, that ended the year with a total fund balance of $553,000. And that is basically all restricted for either education, scholarships, or student activities. On page 5, the school unrestricted fund had a net change in fund balance of minus $537,000. The school restricted grants had an increase of $124,000 for the year. If you turn to page 11, is your budget to actual presentation. So the school department ended the year with a budgetary surplus of $332,000. Starting on page 13, it's basically the detail of the school restricted fund that's in the front. It basically lists all of the individual funds that make that up, if anybody's interested in that. There was no management letter this year. No findings or anything but the single audit we did this year. I don't know if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask.
Is there any questions? I guess the question is, should we keep Lisa on?
Say so.
Okay. All right. Did you want to just quickly go through the town, just?
I can go through the town. Is there anything in particular you're interested in? Probably interested in your RIDE capital reserve, maybe? Your capital project fund. So the town financial statement is in the back. Well, on page 99, that actually has your school building bond, which is showing a fund balance of $319,000 still left in that. If you flip to page 100, you'll see your the RIDE revolving capital fund currently has a fund balance of $824,000, and that's used for all school projects. Your information is also in the town's report. Your unrestricted fund, all your funds are included. There's also additional information, you know, on the town's general fund and all the other town funds, pension information. You know, if you're interested in that pension liability or OPEB information, I don't know if you have any particular interest, anything I can point out.
No. That's very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Let the record reflect Mr. Connolly's here. All right. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it,
Did a great job.
as always. Before I move on to public and community comments, unless there's no objection, would you mind if we brought up the Decker Award recipients presentation? Okay, hearing no objection, let's have the Decker Award recipients at state competition. So first, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rita Vieira. I am a business teacher at North Smithfield High School. I am also the DECA advisor. DECA is a club for students who are interested in competing in a business environment. We have a business CTE now at the high school, and DECA participation is the performance piece of the business CTE. So we have a very robust DECA chapter this year. We have 44 students that are members of DECA. Of those 44, 39 were registered to compete, 37 actually competed, 2 were homesick. And out of those 37, I did have 13 of them that medaled for this their competition, and I'm going to read a list of the names and their event and their place. So we had student Logan Medenica. His event was entrepreneurship, and he placed first. Anna Kroner competed in food marketing, first place. Brendan Regan competed in personal financial literacy, first place. Patricia Woes, principles of marketing, first place. Alina Binkowitz, retail merchandising, first place. Jeremy D'Aguirre, buying and merchandising team, second place. Caden Kobani, buying and merchandising team, second place. Mason Deneza, entrepreneurship team, second place. Will Sullivan, entrepreneurship team, second place. Olivia Langione, food marketing series, second place. Brianna McAssey, hotel and lodging management, third. William Connell, sports and entertainment marketing team, third. And Ethan Correa, sports and entertainment marketing team, third. These kids did really great. They worked very, very hard. Most of them are now eligible to attend the DECA, it's ICDC, International Career Development Conference. It's the national competition. That's being held this year in Orlando in April. They are very excited to participate in that. And in addition to the people who placed, I also have possibly 3 students who did not place but are interested in taking leadership positions in DECA in their 11th and 12th grade years, who may come to Orlando to participate instead of in a competition in some academies about training them for leadership. Very exciting. In addition to the competition that happened that day, we also had the elections for state officers, and our own Logan Medenica has won president for Rhode Island DECA. So that's great. The last 3 presidents, well, including Logan, have been North Smithfield students. Callie Kiavansavang last year, Mason Deneza this year, and now Logan Medenica will be our president next year. And we're very proud of them. So we've got a lot going on in DECA. You might also know that we just came back from the Sports and Entertainment Marketing Conference. Me and myself and 6 kids went down at the beginning of February. They learned an astonishing amount of information. They got so much out of it. That the DECA program is going strong, and the kids are doing great with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In this committee, will be sending out certificates of congratulation sometime in the near future. Thank you. Let's move on to public comments and community comments. Does anyone want to speak on either of these? Superintendent, you see no hands raised.
No hands raised on Zoom either.
Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone want anything taken off of the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay. Which items?
7C, 18, 19, and 20.
Okay. Okay, and I just want to make a, if it's okay, a comment on number 10. I just want to congratulate Austin Sylvia for Eagle Scout. And as we always do, we send a letter on behalf of the school committee congratulating him. This is a big step in a person's future, and I just, again want to congratulate him.
Mr. Chair, a comment?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to comment very briefly on the overnight field trips, item 5 for the We the People, the finals. I had a chance to judge them again this year. And I know Ms. Mayo was also there as well. And if somebody else was there, I missed them, I apologize. But, we had a lot of people from the community come in. And kind of like the DECA, I was very impressed listening to the report on how the DECA students did. I had a chance to get the judge. I'll read some of the We the People students, and they were impressive too. It's just, it's really rewarding to see what goes on in the district. So I thought the students were very impressive. And really well behaved and presented very nicely, and just the kind of things you'd like to see in your students.
All right, so we're taking off 7C, 18, 19, did you say 20?
18, 19, and 20.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda except for 7C, 18, 19, and 20.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to 7C.
Okay, so you realize I'm concerned with this issue, and I did get your email, and I did get that the trust, was it?
Yes, the trust reviewed it, approved
Reviewed
it.
Again, I'm still concerned with the wording.
Mhm.
I feel that because there is the issue of the school nurse, I'd like to hear from our school nurses.
Okay.
How they feel about it. Because I think I don't know when the law was written, how many school psychologists, how many medical professionals took part in it.
Mhm.
Same as the trust, what medical professional read through it and felt it covered all of our bases.
Okay, how would you like that handled? Would you like me to
If we can have the nurse.
poll them? Would you like them to be here? Okay.
Please,
All three, or at least one who's the spokesperson for the other two?
I think I'd like all three,
Okay,
only because if one says she's comfortable with it and the other two aren't, I don't want them to feel pressured. I'd like to hear from the three.
okay.
Is there any objection to continuing this matter to the next meeting? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to continue this matter to the next meeting with having the nurses show up and testify.
Yes.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chair, can I have I know we have put past, just a question on that.
Yeah.
I know Terry, you mentioned the trust again. Did we hear some, may I ask the superintendent, did we hear back from the trust on this, or?
Yes, we did.
I'm sorry, now I came in late. What was the response from the trust?
I had sent that email.
Oh,
So that was about 3 weeks ago, I think.
About 3 weeks ago.
I forwarded the trust email to the school committee.
Right.
I don't have it right here, on me, but they reviewed it with their attorneys.
with their folk, and they said it pretty much followed exactly what the Department of Health, was recommending.
I don't recall it offhand, but I mean, I spoke with Mr. Reardon and the attorney were there at the meeting we had at the, meeting a month ago. So that's what I expected it to be, but I'm glad we had that, put down. And, I just want to verify too, I want to just validate, Ms. Bottomillo, Molly's concerns. I think they're legitimate concerns, but I think it's also, my feeling is right now, it's the world we're in right now, and it's where the law is right now, and I think I personally think it's better to have a policy than not, but again, I just said we're gonna continue with this next.
Okay, moving on to 18.
I'm just wondering, was this a surprise donation? Did we know about this? Does it offset some of the needs in our budget?
I would definitely classify it as a surprise donation. I mean, we do have a pretty strong relationship with Fidelity and
Okay.
with others and Bryant and Electric Boat, but these were actually brand new devices in the box. So I was surprised to unpack them, and so we're just starting to formulate plans for them right now.
Okay,
But yeah, it was a surprise.
all right.
So typically in the past, when we've received donations from Fidelity, they've gone a long way to replacing teacher desktops.
Correct.
At the high school for the engineering kids and, the business students, it's refurbished their labs and their equipment as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to say like this CTE program is partially in place because of a lot of the donations that we received. So it's definitely been a major aspect. So,
No, I think it's great and really do appreciate it. I was just wondering that that's a positive to offset some of the needs within technology.
absolutely.
Okay.
And Mr. Stanley will complain that he never has enough money to do all the things that he wants to do. And then companies like Fidelity come along, or in the past there was Electric Boat, and, Bryan College has helped
Sure.
out, made a tremendous difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So that's great. And Sherry, sorry, can we get a letter out them thanking them? Superintendent and I,
Absolutely, yes.
well, on the committee. So I'll entertain a motion to approve accepting the donation from Fidelity Investments.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item number 19, approval of facility management and rental agreement with Wide World of Sports. I have to recuse on this matter, but Ms. Mayo will take over.
It's the first I'm seeing of the agreement.
Mhm.
And going through the agreement, I do question that during the summer, July and August, December, January, February, the concession stand shall remain closed. So when the concession stand is closed and we have the hoops program going on, which is a recreational program that runs in the summer up on the courts, is someone opening the bathrooms for them?
Did we discuss that? Rob Bonnell is here, from Wide World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, why don't you come on up?
Calling Wide World about helping to take over the program. Because their boards are kind of starting to fall apart, so they've actually asked us to help out to run that program. So it may come to the point where we come back here again and talk about maybe adding the basketball courts into it as well, along with our indoor court, to help continue to grow that program, because it's been really successful.
Right, and with the bathrooms and the concession stand, but let's go to the bathrooms first. We've worked out so that if our teams are playing, games, or town leagues are renting, or Wide World is renting out to others, that the concession stand and the bathrooms are open at that time. Okay,
For games.
for games.
For games, yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah.
but in the summer and in the times in between, not necessarily the bathrooms will be open. One, the bathrooms won't be open over the winter because there is no heating whatsoever in there, so it has to be winterized. We have discussed opening up the bathrooms on the off time when no one is there supervising them. And we run into an awful lot of vandalism. So right now, the bathrooms will not be open outside of games and rentals. We have talked about having a couple of porta johns available for the off time.
Yeah, that's in the contract.
For the
but
off.
We'll provide the porta johns. Yeah.
Right, but,
Outside.
yeah, but opening up the bathrooms, outside of a rental is not something that we're
Okay,
intending to do.
so the hoops program is not a rental, or is it?
So the hoops program, typically, they will rent the gymnasium, but the basketball courts are open all the time.
The summer league?
Yeah, in fact, I can't tell you offhand. I don't know, Matt, if, no, Matt went offline for a moment.
I
Okay,
can't speak for the hoops program either,
Ma-
other than I know a lot of kids that
Oh,
play.
Matt's on. Hey, Matt, the hoops program, they rent the gymnasiums. Do they rent the outdoor basketball court as well?
I do not believe so. I believe that they have always run the outdoor courts as like their program and their facility for the summer league. It's just that the summer league is very packed up there. Those nights, you've got a lot of community members up there. So I understand the hesitation that we're talking about with whether the bathrooms are going to be open or porta johns, because you do have a good amount of people there for multiple hours on multiple nights up there.
my concern being, I was on the town council when we got this concession stand bill. And the real concern was the sanitation for children and adults, whoever was up at the field. Hoops has been around, and I know the basketball court, when it was down here, was donated. And it was named and dedicated to a community member. And then it was moved, so I understand why it shouldn't be rented, if they have the right to use it. My concern being that we pushed for this concession stand to have bathrooms.
Mhm.
And if during the summer, we don't access those bathrooms, when you have many children up there, I see it as a problem.
Okay.
So my question is, the locks on the doors, are they key locks or is it a key pad?
No, they keep up.
Can we put keypads on those locks? That whoever runs hoops, when he gets there that night, can open the door?
There's currently a padlock, there was as of 3 months ago, a padlock on the fence that people had the code to get into to get the keys to the concession stand in the bathroom. So that was already there.
So they
So
do
you have to
have
ask Alan if
access
it's
to a key to open those bathrooms.
But the biggest concern is who's responsible for monitoring the bathrooms
And
and
the
then cleaning them
cleaning,
afterwards.
that's right.
Right.
So let me talk to Alan Seepy with
Okay.
this. And believe me, I understand your request and it makes perfect sense.
I think
But
from the
I-
taxpayer's perspective, they're going to say, listen, you did this, so we had bathrooms up there, and now we're still in a porta john. And that's not gonna fly.
I can understand that. And let me discuss this with Mr. Bennell and Alan Seepy.
Okay.
And I'll reach out to Hoops as well.
Yeah,
Try to
and-
figure out what their layout is for times that they're up there.
Right, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know offhand whether they're renting the exterior facility, the basketball court. I know it's used all the time, but a lot of community members. But an organization like Hoops, if it's outside of disagreement, I'm sure Rob's been fantastic trying to accommodate every single
Right.
variation,
Yeah,
so we get this.
On
Yeah,
you,
no,
I
Right.
no,
know that
Yeah.
we'll have somebody who
Right.
will allow the access to use these bathrooms that we pushed for.
Mhm.
And actually, that brings up a concern that I have, which is on page 3 of this contract. It says that ATM shall be responsible for providing portable restrooms from December through March when public restrooms are closed and winterized. But then underlined, under that, it says portable restrooms shall only be made available for ATM events. So those two statements don't seem to go hand in hand.
that's set up that way because typically North Smithfield never rented the field during the winter. And we expect to use it during the winter. I used it, 2 years ago during the winter during COVID. And we can't use the regular bathroom, so the porta johns would have to be there anyways. So that's why. There was no North Smithfield usage of
Right.
the bathrooms during the winter.
Okay,
So what you don't want to do is leave them open all the time for the general public to use outside business hours all night long. They end up getting destroyed, so they got to be locked up.
all right. My other question has to do with the availability of the facility being open for the track facilities being open.
Yep.
Will they be open to the public? Because
Absolutely.
that is
I think the verbiage we put in there is with regards to if the field marshal feels that it's an issue with safety,
Mhm.
then they wouldn't allow the track to be used. For example, if we have 106-year-olds out there, I don't know if we want adults that have not been background checked, because all our coaches, all our staff are background checked. They have to go through sexual abuse training. And to allow adults, if that hasn't happened around all those kids, it's really hard to monitor all that. That's really the only situation that I'd see would be an issue. But outside that, when games are going on, there's typically people walking. So,
Well, and that's your rentals.
Yep.
During regular school games.
Right.
No, we don't, during the school day and when our kids are playing on the field, we don't want people walking the track as well. But we've talked with them in that when they're doing outside rentals, they're okay with people using the track. If they're renting the field
Yeah.
for soccer
So
or
if there's
football.
for example, if there's a 15-year-old game going on, there's gonna be adults that are there watching the game, watching the track. So they'll let the rest of North Smithfield doing it, doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, everyone's doing it anyway. So I'm not worried about that as much as if we have 100 kids in that field doing a foot skills clinic and trying to keep track of all that with a bunch of adults on the track would be difficult. So there's a time and a place, I think, but for us, our rental times really are pretty limited anyways, because the school district is going during the spring and fall season, you're using it till 9 o'clock at night anyway, so there's no real ATM usage of the field during the school season. So you're using it during the day, using it till 9 o'clock at night. So for us, you're really talking about November through March.
Mhm.
Weekends, pretty much whenever, summers and winters. That's really the encompass, what this contract encompasses. But the school uses a lot.
No, that
Yep,
I
yep,
realize
yep.
that.
Yeah, and the priority for the usage and part of the contract and what we talked about is, school use first, town use second, and then any outside rentals beyond that. So that's the priority, for use of the track.
I have
And,
one more,
the-
I have one more priority, North Smithfield organizations first.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm Ted came along, he's the president of North Smithfield Youth Soccer. We've had some communications as well to make sure they can continue to use it for their games as well.
And we had talked earlier today, and you said there was going to be a website potentially set up so people could see
Yes.
when the track was made.
So all of their schedules and our schedules will be on a publicly available website. So anyone can go take a look and see, when there's a game, when it's open, and, we do want to make it accessible. We don't want people showing up and then saying, sorry, we have a game starting at 4 o'clock, you have to leave. We want this all upfront, so people know, the best times to go and use that track.
And I have one more question, and I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this, and I probably should, but is the gate still locked, or can people access the field?
I don't know offhand. I believe the gates are open during the times in which, we don't have something going on.
Yeah, we haven't been using it since the end of the fall season.
Right.
Until this all.
Yeah, and we do, and some of the things we have to sort of work our way through, and the fact that they're also going to have more personnel out there on the field. We run into huge problems, weekends and summers, where we may not have a rental on the, football field. However, people from other communities just show up. They take bolt cutters and they unlock things and they drag it across the field when you're not supposed to. We go in on Monday and we're picking up litter and gum and trying to restore the track where people are walking with improper footwear or dropping Gatorade or food on the track. It's we really do have a problem with trash and litter and vandalism out there, which is really unfortunate.
So, what is your pleasure?
I have one quick question, if somebody. Yeah, go ahead.
North Smithfield Youth Soccer Association president. So I met with Rob earlier today. There's two main concerns that were coming up from our organization. I think one we addressed was prioritization, just making sure that town associations would still have access. Historically, we've had our youth board team and older kids playing out on the turf field. So we used to use it in springtime, we used to use it in the fall, and we used to schedule it through Matt Tech. And we were hoping to continue that same kind of prioritization for this coming season as well as the fall. So we kind of spoke about that. I think we're in agreement that we're kind of in that ranking behind school athletics, which makes sense. The second item is the cost of the field. So right now, we're looking at probably about $100 to $150 for each of our games. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start to put that against the entire season for each of the teams, so it'd be about roughly a $600 increase to our team cost. So right now, we try to market ourselves for a town organization, something that's affordable for any player and making it accessible. So one of the things that we were concerned about is that price that's going to be incurred by, town residents. The majority of our teams are made up by about 90% town residents, even a little bit more than that in most cases. So that's our second concern. That is what that's to the attention.
Thank you. And we do have a related policy that we need to review. Our pricing for the track in the field has been the same for about 10 years, or if not longer. And we do have steep discounts for town leagues. So again, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but again, you've already met with Mr. Bennell, and they're more than willing to work with us, and importantly is to try to keep everything consistent and accessible. So thank you, and that's what we're working forward going forward.
It's fine, Steve. No, I agree. Like, it makes sense for the town. Like, we're looking at the overall cost that we're going to be receiving as a town organization, not North Smithfield Youth, but how much we would be receiving from Wide World, and then looking at what we used to actually cost out for the field. So it makes sense from the town standpoint. I was just trying to protect the interests of the youth soccer.
Of course. Thank you.
If I can, I just heard that, there was concern about the increase in the price that will affect maybe some of the residents in town being able to participate in it. And nothing we just said changes that or impacts that. You said we're gonna review the policy again that has if the steep discounts are already there, and there's still gonna be a $600
Yeah,
increase.
and I don't know, and Matt is here. I think last year there was a swap because something with the field was going on, so he was using your field, and then he allowed you to use our field for a bit. So that was kind of all handled outside of the realm of what we're putting in place.
Yeah,
So
one of the concerns is with the elementary school being used primary field for an extended period of time. Fields is just there right now.
Right.
So right now, like here, continue to use that field, we have access to the turf field. Their concern would be that field would be basically decommissioned within a year or so because it would no longer be usable. So it need to be completely stripped down and resurfaced. So not the turf field.
Right. So it sounds like we also need to tighten up our association with North Smithfield Parks and Rec as far as the condition of the town fields versus extending over to the school department field and so on. So, okay.
Yeah, we started reaching out already to the school department. I've only been in position for about 6 weeks.
Hey, congratulations.
So, a lot of this is I apologize. But we started talking with the school, the elementary school, condition of fields, what we need to do in order to start reserving them, and also start to bring them back up to where they need to be in order to support Super League for our outdoor spring season as well as our fall recreational program. We've also been talking about what else we could do, wide all the indoor sports, in order to take some of the load off the fields as well as the turf field. So we are going to enter into more of a partnership and understanding between both organizations. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, very good.
Spring and fall is good for us because the indoors.
Yeah.
So for us to bring kids inside to help out, to give grass some, the grass needs rest, and it was overused. Yeah. So that's easy.
I sense a meeting coming up with Parks and Rec.
It was always the town's responsibility.
I also want to know, if I may, we talked about the youth groups having trouble, well, let me rephrase that. I remember years ago at Chico Park, when they ran the Little League, they had a little concession stand there, and that was always open. So if some group, if a local group wanted to run the concession stand there while the hoops is on, is that something that could be done, or is that prohibited by this agreement?
Yeah,
You know?
serving food is different.
It is, yeah.
Much different. I mean, and they are beholden to an awful lot of legal and liability, and this is a very different level.
Yeah, we have to go
Yeah.
through, all our employees go through food management classes, crowd control, all that. Part of our regular routine at the building. So to have those employees now come to run another facility is easy. So it covers all those liability issues that come with food. Plus, to do a real good concession stand, there's a lot of equipment that we put in there to be able to do things that you wouldn't normally do for a normal youth sports concession stand.
But it's not gonna be open in the summer, right? That's what we're saying?
Well, it can be. We didn't want to pay $750 a month rental on it and have nothing going on. So if there's something going on, then we have no problem paying for the concession stand. That's the way the contract's written up. So for example, if we run a summer clinic out there, then there's probably no reason to have to, it would make great sense to have the concession stand open.
So that would be allowed?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't clear on that.
Yep.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, this is a new agreement for both of us. So we do have a review period we're getting reports on the money the base funds that they're paying us along with the rentals, and they're also getting a sense of, I mean, they're a business. All right, so they also need to get a sense of what is the revenue or the income for all of this. I mean, we are in a sharing agreement, but we don't know yet how this is all going to.
Yeah, we get the big risk right now, right?
You're taking the risk.
350 hours as a club, so you know, I've known the owners of Wide World for a long time. I started a soccer club 7 years ago, and now we've all become partners in the whole thing. So now, for us, it's good because we have a home for our club. However, we don't need 350 hours. So now it's behest on me to make some of my partners happy that we make sure we use those hours.
Right.
So, and it's good for you because the more hours we rent, the better everyone does.
Well, because Hoops has reached out to you.
Yeah, they've reached out to us just because of
Right.
basketball. Yeah.
I mean, there is a possibility that you can work with them and are they looking for some concession stand or some food dinner
They've done
time?
before, right? I mean,
I mean, they've been doing this for a few years now, and when I've gone by or go up there, it's pretty busy. Your only problem will be they do cancel on rain days,
Right,
so
right,
it's kind of hard for you to just say,
except they can now move into our building, onto our basketball court. So there's a lot of synergy between both.
my biggest concern is that those bathrooms need to be open for the hoops program.
Okay, I'm sure we can work something out.
Yeah, honestly don't even see why we wouldn't want to have the concession stand open. I've been up there too. It's packed,
It's bad.
so why wouldn't?
And
But
for-
we just never, we never. got
A
that.
business opportunity for you
Absolutely.
and some, a return back to the community.
I think
Yeah.
if, I think if the parents knew, I mean, I was actually part of the originators of Chico Park's concession stand. And one of the sons from Village Haven worked with me, and we did the concession stand the first 3 years. And families ate their dinners there.
Oh, yeah.
We had a fry later, we did it all.
Yeah.
And then the volunteers ran out. And the town pulled the equipment out.
And then the laws tightened up.
Well,
For
we
food
had
service.
somebody that worked for the Board of Health, and she had her food
Oh.
handler's license.
That's.
So
there you
we
go.
had it all set up,
Right.
we had the extra sinks, we
Right.
did what we were supposed to do. But I think if families knew that they could feed their children there, it'd be good.
Did you have your questions answered and
Yeah,
ready?
I
to move
mean,
forward?
I think so, if you're comfortable, I think with that,
Well, I think that.
I
my
think it's a
concern-
work in progress,
think
and
it's
I
going
think
to
that
be-
if
yeah.
something comes up, we
Yeah.
can bring it up, and we can
Flexibility,
kind of
yeah.
work through it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
things are gonna come. Let's be honest, because people are very invested in this, so I'm for moving forward with it, even though, we may have questions that come up because things will come up, but
Right. No, I agree. And it may fall on our side as far as those bathrooms being open. And that's something we have to work out, but that has to work.
I personally feel comfortable because, as you know, as tech goes, I ran it already this fall
Mhm.
on my own with no agreement in place. I opened it up for the rentals that were there for you guys, closed them and cleaned the bathrooms personally, because I wanted to see what kind of numbers and hours it was gonna take for our employees to kind of put this agreement together. So I don't have to tell people that they have to do something else. I've done it myself, so. So I think the bathroom's open for even for hoops isn't a bad idea.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm trying to move forward.
Okay. And I'm assuming that Ben has been this.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Very good. So I'm looking for a motion to approve facility management and rental agreement with Wide World of Sports.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can we just vote on this or do we need a roll call?
It's four, I think. Put a roll call on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Jeff. Roll call.
That-
Maybe
that's
definitely
okay,
roll
yeah,
call.
Exactly.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
So, all in favor? None opposed? One recusal?
Right.
The ayes have it.
All right, great, thank you. Moving on to item number 20, approval of RIDE MOA Technology and Furniture SBA Grant 22-23 North Smithfield.
I only pulled this because I wasn't sure what it was.
So, surprisingly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Surprisingly, we got a letter from the Department of Ed saying that there was, for North Smithfield, $115,000 available for technology and, furniture upgrades, which just coincided with a library, NSES library renovation project we were looking at, and we had WB Mason come in and design the back end of the library, which is right now a catch-all for furniture and stuff, into a modern modular training and educational space. So we have the designs, we had the price, and now suddenly we found we have the money. So what we're looking to apply it towards the NSES renovation. In fact, I'm not going to bring it up on, no, I'm not going to bring it up on Zoom, but I will just show you for in here. That is a mock-up, a 3D rendering of the NSES library, that space in the back, the training space. And so you can see updated furniture is modular. The whole thing can be reconfigured for students, for professional development, for families. It's going to be really lovely.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a good question.
Oh, okay.
I like that little piece. that little presentation.
Any further questions?
I actually have this one. Did this go out to other districts as well?
Yes, it did. I'll admit, I missed the first time the email went out. But then I learned about it and I quickly recovered. And so that's why I desperately needed you to sign it today, because I should have had it signed a month ago. So.
Great.
All right, thank you, everyone, on that one. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the RIDE MOA Technology and Furniture SBA Grant 2223 in North Smithfield.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to reports, Superintendent.
Yeah, and for the sake of time, I will cede my moment to Clare Arnold, who is joining us on vacation right now,
Oh,
to tell you about, give you the update on ESSER.
Can you hear me okay?
yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Was that really loud?
Hang on, I'm
So, okay, better?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, good evening, Chair Lombardi and School Committee. I am updating you about the ESSER application. And so ESSER, as you remember, is the Elementary and Secondary Education Relief Act. The funding's in place to help ensure that districts meet the needs of students due to the impact of COVID-19. In the planning phase of ESSER 3 application, we did send out a survey and we came up with 4 main priorities, and those priorities still stand. And if you remember, because I've reported out a few times, but it's the implementation of additional intervention opportunities throughout the district within the school day. That was number 1. The second priority was the same implementation of interventions, but after school hours. It could be in the evenings or in the summer. The third priority, provide additional mental health services and supports. And our final priority was continue to repair and improve school facilities. And so we have amended the application because we knew that, that a year later we would have to amend. And I'll give you an example. We had put funding aside for a instructional assistant for our ELL students. And honestly, we posted it and we got 0 applications. And so that was something that we had to change up and give supports in other ways. We had some funds that were in transportation for after school activities, but DATCO is doing an amazing job with the shortage that they have for school bus drivers. And so we didn't necessarily use that funding. And so we're doing an amendment, and that's what I was reporting out on today. And so one of the biggest things that we're doing, and it's a database decision, is that we're going to expand our math intervention programs at the high school level, that we plan on hiring a full-time math teacher for next year. The teacher will teach semester courses that focus on either intervention or SAT, PSAT, SAT, math for our students. And that was a database decision. We haven't fully developed the job description yet, but step one would be putting it in the application. If you remember, we have funded math intervention at the middle school through ESSER, and we've had some really great results and really strong improvement. And so we would like to continue that at the high school. We're also going to continue to fund our part-time teacher assistants at the lower elementary to support our students with reading and literacy instruction, focusing on grade 1. We have a full-time instructional assistant at NSES to support literacy, and that will be focusing in on grades 2 and 3. We do have some funds set aside to purchase high quality curriculum materials. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, a law passed saying that we needed to have high quality curriculum materials in English language arts, math, and science. The science actually has been on hold. And the reason is because RIDE has to first develop a list of what is considered high quality curriculum materials. And they just came out with a couple of programs at the middle school level that would be considered high quality instructional programs that we will be reviewing together. And so there's only 2 on the list. We don't have any for high school or for elementary, but we would like to move forward reviewing those programs, and it would be wonderful if we could use some ESSER funds to support the adoption of that program. We do plan on continuing to offer summer enrichment and academic activities and opportunities for our students. We will continue next year providing high dosage tutoring to students to provide instructional supports in reading, math achievement. We've done it in a variety of ways, and it's sometimes after school, like a typical, a traditional setting, but we've also done some tutoring in the evenings via Zoom or Google Meets, where teachers have office hours that are open to students that need help, primarily at the high school in mathematics, where also, we have funds aside to continue our professional development to align with the Right to Read Act for Rhode Island. We're moving forward. We actually have quite a few teachers that will be able to do some training this summer, and so we will continue with that. And we're also continuing the window replacement project at the high school. ESSER did fund the cafeteria windows, which look amazing. And we're going to also be replacing the rest of the windows on the front of the building. So I'm really looking for that. And finally, we also continue to offer a variety of after-school clubs at the middle school and high school. And the purpose is to promote social connectedness, improve communication skills, student achievement, as well as gain confidence, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. And just an idea, we've run over 40 clubs at the middle school, high school level. And they include cooking, gardening, dance, basketball, drawing, Lego, Minecraft, chess, archery, creative writing, robotics, debate, slot car racing, knitting, sewing, film production, book clubs. So, I mean, that's just to name a few, but just to get an idea that there are just a variety of opportunities to get our students in school and engaged. And so, just like last year, all information along with spreadsheets will be, as soon as it's approved, will be updated to the district website. And if you go on right now, you'll see the application details with the narratives and the spreadsheet from last year.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
I do have one question. So we're going to be talking about the Nathan Bruno Jason Flat Act. And I guess, so we have the ESSER funds, and you did say that there'll be counseling with the ESSER funds, or are you moving funds away from them?
So with the ESSER funds, really, we're using a variety of funds for engagement. But if you remember, in our local budget, we found that we wanted to, knowing that ESSER funds will be running out, that we needed to reorganize to ensure that we have extra supports available for students in the coming years, right? So embed it into our local budget. And so some of the extras, those supports will be embedded within the local budget.
I guess I'm just wondering how we affect the most amount of children with either, well, with adolescent depression as possible. I mean, obviously, suicide is an extremely bad thing, but general depression is also very bad.
Right.
It can affect people's lives. And so I'm just, the mental health facilities are overrun right now with too many.
So I couldn't agree more with you, and that's why, and you recently approved, but an additional full-time psychologist, and that is huge for us to have a full-time person at the middle school and a full-time person at the high school. Right now, we have one that goes between the two buildings, so that extra person will be amazing. And an incredible resource for us. And we also have additional administrative support, which will also be an incredible resource for us.
And
that won't run out. And I think that was the priority, that we don't want to just put something in ESSER and have it gone, because these funds are, we have next school year and then they're done with.
Right. And I agree with you and appreciate you looking at this. I'm just wondering, how do we expand it even more? So that I'm sure we're helping a lot of children, but there must be some that are being, lost by just not asking for help or something like that. Is there a program where we can reach out to try to have these kids talk to us?
So actually that ties very well into the Nathan Bruno Jason Flatt Act and what we're doing with that. So do you want me to share that? And I know it's later on the agenda, but I feel like it fits really well with your questions if you want me to go over that, because it explains some of our programming.
Okay. I'll call that right after this. All right. Well,
okay.
Well, no, wait. I'll entertain a motion to merge the Nathan Bruno Act, item number 6.2 as part of this discussion. Motion been made. Is there a second? Seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. There, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. So the requirement of the Nathan Bruno Jason Flatt Act is for districts to, start with developing a policy on suicide prevention. It's a Suicide Prevention Act and prevention and intervention. And so you all had adopted our current policy in October 2022. In alignment with that policy, the middle school and high school is implementing a new program, and this it's called the SOS, which is the Signs of Suicide program, which is in a RIDE approved program. So that's with our students. And so just to give you a little background, SOS is like a universal school-based prevention program designed for middle school and high school students starting in grade 6. And the goals of the program is to decrease suicide and suicide attempts by increasing student knowledge, adaptive attitudes about depression, encourage personal help seeking and/or help seeking on behalf of a friend, which is incredibly crucial, reducing the stigma of mental illness and acknowledge the importance of seeking help and treatment, and engaging parents and school staff as partners in prevention through gatekeeper education. And so as part of this, the health teachers deliver the curriculum, but they do that in tandem with the counselors and school psychologists to do that. And so the reason that one of the reasons that it's on the agenda to, of course, inform you all, but also within that program, there is a questionnaire that students take. And so the health teachers do a lesson with the psychologist in the room. They do a lesson, and then they're giving a depression screening that they fill out. Part of that screening is, do you have an adult that you can go to? So they actually have to name an adult if they need help, or if they have someone that needs help. And it goes straight to the psychologist, and the psychologist then screens those and then works with individual students. So we're not just waiting for students to come to us, but we're seeking out students that may need some extra support, that just want to talk. And it could just be talk, because they're worried about a friend, or it could be talk because they're having some signs of direct depression. But it is a way to reach out to students to have them come to us. And it's all done through a, real specific curriculum. Mr. Fitzgerald, our health and PE teacher, as well as health department head, was supposed to be here, but because it was vacation week, he just wasn't able to. He wanted to Zoom in, and he felt badly about missing this, but he's definitely been working in conjunction with the counselors, psychologists, social workers. When this act, especially when the act first passed, we had a team of teachers, including the psychologists, social workers, health and phys ed teachers, just talking about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can support students. And so this is this program is a step in that direction.
And beyond the social workers, psychologists, school guidance staff, we're also rolling out more professional development for all of our teachers. So it is an all hands on deck issue that everybody needs to have the training, the signs, how to respond. We've heard from some teachers that students would come to them with a problem or an issue, and they question, what's the next step? How can I help this child? So it's having all hands on deck, everybody on board with programs and supports at the ready.
Thank you.
Claire or Superintendent, can you just briefly address, I think we overviewed that questionnaire, how that information will be conveyed to the parents and the guardians and responsible adults, right? This will be available to them?
Yes, and actually, Claire, this program, we really like it because there is a large parent component with information available to them. So it's working in partnership with the parents as well. So Claire, I don't know if you.
I couldn't hear the question very well.
I was just asking Claire, just a comment if you could, about the extent that parents will be informed about this, and especially the survey. And I understand they can ask their children to opt out of the survey if they want to. This particular one, or am I wrong on that?
So yes, and so that's when in speaking to the psychologist, social and the health department, they certainly will be sending information home. We talked about how to get it home so the principal can put it in her weekly newsletter, but they also could mail it home. Get something, in the mail, some snail mail, or print it out, or handing it to the students, letting families know that this is coming home, and also some information to families just in general about the program and what we're doing. And so that's definitely a piece of this. They did recommend, and they were hoping that it would be an opt-out rather than an opt-in, simply because they think that it's critical to have as many students as possible take this. It's a 7-question questionnaire. And it really is a screen. I don't know if anyone's been to your general doctor lately, but I feel like whenever I go on in recent years, there's some screens that you have to fill out. And so it's a 7-question screen. And that really will just give our faculty some information, whether or not we want to, or if a student would like to speak to someone.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm all in on this act and pursuing these matters. That's not what I'm all in. We should get I think this is important for students, the way things are going. My only question, I was only just concerned that, even the questions that are there that were approved there was 1 or 2 I thought that, could this potentially be a trigger for a particular kid, not all kids, but for a particular kid. And that's why I just want to make sure that the parent, guardian, responsible adult is aware of, aware of what's going on, so that somebody can say, don't ask my kid this question because, for various reasons.
Mhm. Yeah. So I agree with you that we definitely want to educate parents and share the information in a variety of forms, in a variety of ways, certainly. And there will be other pieces to this program, and I kind of mentioned it, but that gatekeeper piece, that all of us adults are the gatekeepers for the students, and we need to know what the signs of suicide are, and then how to react and how to respond.
I do have a question. Once they take the survey, and if we do see red flags, are we reaching out to the parents?
Yes.
Is it something?
So we would basically do it. It could be a student isn't necessarily going to self-harm. If they could fill out the survey and maybe they just need to talk to someone because they're feeling blue, they're feeling down, and that's okay. But if it could be even more serious than that, and if it is somewhat serious, either our psychologist or our social worker, they have to be trained clinicians that would do a risk assessment, and they know the proper procedure of that. But certainly parents would be brought into that conversation.
Or
Yes.
the parents are then brought in, and we're not all of a sudden deciding this is something confidential just between the school and the student.
No. So this is if a risk assessment is done, parents are aware.
Okay.
Certainly.
So it looks like it's a self-screening, right? So it's not clear to me that information would get back to a professional. Is this for a student to do the survey, the screening for themselves, and then determine based on their score that in their exit slips they would ask for help? Like it's just not clear to me whether this would be an anonymous survey, and then you would get all kinds of information about how students feel, but you wouldn't know who they are, or the students would self-screen and then reach out based on their score.
So I do wish Mr. Fitz was here because he's the one that's been explaining it to me. And I've been working with him on that, Mr. Fitz and our psychologist, Mrs. Corsini. And so I think that the students' names are on it because they want to know who needs the help. And there's a variety of ways that students can reach out to teachers or adults or coaches or any of this. So this may not get everyone, but I do think that it's like one piece of the puzzle.
And my understanding when we met with Mr. Fitz and he was explaining this and going over it, is that the students who wanted to, again, we're not forcing anybody to, they would fill this out, and then it goes directly to the school psychologist who was in the room, who was part of the training, part of the workshop, part of the lesson, where the screening is being utilized. So it goes directly from the student to the school psychologist.
And the second part was that, your score and what it means. So would the student be able to self-score? Like, it's just.
They could.
They could?
So I have a lot of confidence in things outside of this screening. I don't know how many people you're gonna catch from the screening, but if we're having teachers trained to watch for this, I think that's where we're gonna probably pick up the issues. We deal with them a lot, and they can probably read that, read issues. So.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Lombardi. I think that this is just one piece of the program. Every teacher, before they started the school year, did signs of suicide online professional development. It was part of our GCN. So that was like the very minimal just to start the school year. And then from there, during faculty meetings, it's discussed and programs are being in place. So this one tool is just one small piece of a bigger program.
And that's great to hear. Anybody have any further questions? So this is both the ESSER update and and the Nathan Bruno Act. So does anybody have any questions on either of them? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Nathan Bruno Act SOS curriculum questionnaire. Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question, Mr. Lombardi. I'm sorry. And I can't hear all that well. So in your vote, do you have to say whether or not it's an opt-in or an opt-out questionnaire?
I believe that your state, we're working off your statement that it's an opt-out.
Okay, thank you.
So as long as you notify parents that they can opt out or children at the time can opt out, I don't see any problems with this.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry, the minute typically says that it's an opt-out, so when we voted on it, we voted also on the memo that you prepared, or so somebody prepared, which specifies that it would be an opt-out.
That's the information that is part of this program that will be communicated to the parents.
Okay.
Claire, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And why don't you go back to your well-deserved vacation?
All right. Superintendent, did you need to give the general school update, or for time purposes, are you waiving your right?
I am waiving everything else on the agenda if you wish.
This is I think it's gonna be a little bit of a long one.
All right.
All right. All right. So moving on to item 4. Again, this is for informational purposes. I do just want to make one statement. That's okay. Does anybody have anything to say?
I have just at the right time, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, on that, on the information, obviously, I just want to point out that over the years, I had a lot of opportunities to work with Mr. Boss. I was involved in a small subgroup that actually was interviewing him and hired him back in the prior iteration of the school committee. And so I had a chance to meet with him, talk with him then, and I've had, again, opportunities to interact with him over the last few years. I was enjoyed my interactions with him, and I wish him the very best.
Thank you.
I would just echo that and thank Mr. Boss for his service to North Smithfield and his wonderful relationships with students.
So obviously, I am also sad to see Mr. Boss resign. I want to thank him for his dedication to the students of North Smithfield High School. I know for a fact he made a difference in many children's lives. I know during the pandemic, he worked hard with the most vulnerable students to get them back into the classroom. I wish him the best of luck in the future. And again, I'm sad to see him go.
And he was very much a fixture at North Smithfield High School. Not just the fact that he was physically large, but he had a presence beyond that. And yes, I've told him, I just wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
Thank you.
And I do want to just say, I didn't know whether or not to mention something, but this is the sad passing of Ellie Letourneau, instructional assistant at NSES. Absolutely devastating. She's just marvelous, wonderful, a fixture, again, a part of NSES, a part of North Smithfield. And we all very much mourn her passing.
Thank you, Superintendent. Moving on to old business, the fiscal year 23 operating capital budget. Lisa, any update, anything? Yeah, I'm still. Yeah. 24 operating capital budgets. I know. Yes, so the planning board is meeting Thursday on the capital budget. And have we heard anything from budget committee? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Moving on to the Paul Joyce Athletic Complex parking. So I know, Ms. Bonamoli, did you want to talk about that?
I think if this is something that we have listed in the capital budget, I think we need to get some pricing. And
So,
spring is around the corner.
yes, so
Needs to happen quickly. If it's happening.
on Thursday, Mr. Seepy is meeting with a design firm that is taking a look at the proposed solar parking as well as extending the parking lot ourselves, doing a price comparison. We have an initial price of $150,000.
Is that a good number?
That is a good number. All right, to add 60 extra spaces. Now, the other meeting that's coming up is with RIDE to verify if that 150,000 is also RIDE reimbursable. That meeting is also coming up this week. So we have a number of projects that we're putting forward to RIDE to review to see if that they are considered reimbursable. Now, our initial information was, yes, it is, but we don't have the signed piece from the school building authority saying, yes, we will approve this at 35% reimbursable rate. So we should have that lined up at the end of the week.
Okay. That should be under safe, right?
It should be under safe, yes.
Did I hear you say that you're also getting proposals for solar as well as?
So we're having the company take a look at the green development solar proposal. And they did have a number of questions with that, largely financials. Just again, to do due diligence, to take a look at both of the proposals and get an outside opinion as to which one makes the most sense.
My objection to that at the time was the fact that I thought we were being pushed into that particular proposal and we were getting absolutely nothing in return. So I don't know if, there's a solar proposal out there where it might benefit us in the long run. I don't know about anything like that. So is that going to be part of?
Yes, and that's what the company is looking at. And again, they have a whole series of questions regarding the rates now and going forward, and basically because we understand that we're looking for a 40-year commitment from the town, and so we just want to be absolutely sure that everything in that proposal lined up, even though we could probably do something, we could extend the parking within what we have in our revolving fund, for ride reimbursable projects. But again, we need ride to say, yes, this qualifies, and yes, you can be reimbursed up to 35%. Similarly, again, with the capital, where we have a project or proposal to widen the exit from NSES. Because if somebody is trying to make a left-hand turn while you're leaving, it blocks up maybe 100 cars behind it. So we want to widen it, so at least there could be a right-hand turn on the exit.
That's a DEM issue. Isn't there water at the
Yes,
culvert at
and
the bottom?
there's a gas pipe, and again, we can't just have it done. First
Right.
of all, we have to go through the necessary channels and, have the designs and to see if it's even feasible. Because that egress out of NSES, especially, as you know, when there's a school event, is terrible, and it's not safe. So again, we have a whole list of things that I did put in the capital plan just to notify the town, not that we're asking, for direct funds for this, but to let them know of the things that we're working on that we would apply to the $800,000 right now we have in the revolving fund.
Great.
Sorry, one more question. In the course of this comparison, is it possible to get a list of pros and cons of each proposal?
Yeah, I was hoping to be at the meeting Thursday, but this is also vacation week, and for some ridiculous reason, I booked myself into an educational conference. So I don't want to say that I was hoping to get a few days out of school and I wasn't paying attention to what week this was, the conference was running, but I won't be able to be there for that, but I will forward that information to Mr. Seepy.
Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to 6, new business, item number 3, ordering of new uniforms for sports teams. Mr. Tech?
So we provided a document to the school committee members to see kind of a snapshot of when we've ordered uniforms, how often we order them, what year we've ordered them. As been indicated before, one of the things that we deal with in our district is that we have 32 sports teams that are between the middle school and the high school. And so with trying to replace those uniforms every 4 to 5 years, that hasn't been a viable solution given the funding that was appropriated under the athletic department's budget for about $6,000 annually for uniforms, because the cost of uniforms have gone up exponentially now. So where a set of, for example, high school boys basketball would be, need a home and away set of uniforms. So 22 home and 22 away is 44 uniforms, and that runs you about 5,000 and change. So you've almost utilized your allotment for one fiscal year, just getting one team. So if you order for the boys basketball team, you'd be looking to order for the girls basketball team at the same time to try to keep everything on par. So one of the adjustments that we did going forward was in next year's budget, we did put in for an increase to $10,000 under the uniform line item to try to help facilitate getting these uniforms in a more timely manner. And then obviously at one time in around 2016, 2017, there was an identified surplus where the district did invest a tremendous amount of money to get a bunch of uniforms caught up and to speed up that process. Because you need to be averaging about 4 sets of uniforms to be replaced every single year if you really wanted to keep on kind of every 4 year thing, but that's about a $14,000 to $20,000 investment each year you're doing that. So this is kind of what we presented to you to see where everything is. This year, we obviously did order half of the boys basketball and half of the girls basketball teams uniforms replaced for this year, but that obviously did drain out the line item now. And I know that there might be potentially some identified funds this year where maybe we could reset the uniforms again and get going on a more timely manner of replacing some of these.
I have a question, and I know I brought it up at a budget session. The home and away game or home uniforms versus away uniforms. When did that become a requirement?
The Rhode Island Interscholastic League and the National Federation of High Schools have rules for certain teams. Not all teams require that. For example, tennis does not require home and away uniform, but your football, your hockey, your basketball, those sports will require what they decide to be a white home uniform and then a dark road uniform. So those are requirements by the Rhode Island Interscholastic League. That way teams have clear delineation in the uniforms that they're wearing when going on a game, so that you arrive on a home game or an away game, you have a clear delineation and no uniforms are two of the same. So if, like, for example, we were playing Smithfield and we both have green and gold, we could potentially have the same uniform. So a home uniform allows for one team wearing white while the other team's wearing the darker colors.
Okay. And as far as practice uniforms, we do practice uniforms when it comes to basketball. It's just a jersey.
Yeah, so some sports have either a penny type of jersey or a practice jersey. So basketball, as you just indicated, does have a practice jersey that the kids wear because it's part of their uniform that comes out. Those are returned each year with the uniform. Sometimes for lacrosse, they'll have practice pennies, practice jerseys for football, hockey. A lot of our sports have a practice jersey that they wear during practices.
And we're required to supply that practice jersey?
Well, not necessarily, it's not a requirement, but it is a common practice that is done among many schools. Most high schools do provide a practice shooting jersey, and the kids bring their own shorts and stuff like that. But the basketball jersey is obviously much different than a short sleeve shirt.
Okay. Thank you.
So it
Yep.
basically comes down to, with the number of teams that we're running, to be on a regular uniform recycling, the athletic department would need between $15,000 and $20,000 a year to maintain the same amount of teams that we have and to do on a 4-year rotating basis. Now, and again, I share some of the frustrations with the white uniforms that they get dirty. They're hard to clean. Now, we don't have the Boston Red Sox cleaning service after every game. So a lot of these uniforms, just based on wear and tear, don't last that 4 years that we hope. So what Matt put together was a list of the uniforms, when they were purchased, and the thing that we need to do now is to see if we have the necessary funds to do a reset of the uniforms or a priority reset of the 33 teams, the 10, 20 most needed. And I believe Matt was putting together some ballpark pricing. The company we use is on the state MPA. They provide pretty much every team. And I don't know, Matt, did you get a price from them for what a reset would be?
So it really will depend upon how much of a reset that we're doing. So if we were looking at a kind of reset of the entire athletic department, both high school and middle school, you're probably in the ballpark figure between 50 to 60,000 is where you would be if you were looking to do middle school and high school all at once. And then obviously you could prioritize down depending on the teams, because obviously, for example, I'll use football. Football requires many more uniforms. So you're ordering about 50 uniforms for football rather than you would be ordering like 20 for like a basketball team. So 50 home, 50 away. Your football team is probably your most expensive team of replacing uniforms. And so you got a price tag of about 14,000 just on football for home and away, tops and bottoms, replacing that entire program. That's on a 20% discount right now that's running through this Friday of this week if we were to jump on that. So that's your most expensive sport. And then the sports vary between that because, for example, golf requires just a polo shirt. Tennis requires like a polo shirt. So some of the sports are much cheaper, and your other sports that require multiple sets of uniforms tend to be a little more expensive.
Matt, what happens with, say, hockey when we're in a co-op league with other districts? And the uniform replacement, do the other districts contribute towards that uniform fund?
Yeah, so they can do that. So we actually did that last year. For example, we're in a softball co-op with Burrillville, and Burrillville and ourselves paid half the cost to replace the uniforms. We split it 50-50. So depending on what co-op you have, you can charge another district a portion of the uniform cost, or you can delineate that cost out in a different way by having them pick up transportation or something along those lines. So there is means to allocate or reduce the cost depending on what parameters you want to put in for that.
Matt, I know a number of years ago, we went to a more expensive uniform because they were going to last longer. Is
Yep.
that still correct? Are they lasting longer?
Yes. So for example, like your football uniforms that we're potentially looking about replacing, those uniforms, the white ones and the green ones, they are roughly about 10 years old already, 11 years old, and they still could be used. It's just that our white ones tend to get dirtier a lot easier, and they obviously have that kind of gray look to them. And that's what has been illustrated by some parents in the community saying they don't look white anymore. The material's holding together, and they're still very usable in some manners. But again, the aesthetic look, especially to our white uniforms, aren't necessarily holding up to that kind of degree of whiteness that people would like to see.
So I know we spoke to the superintendent about possibly petitioning to get like gold pants instead of white pants, or is that something that we could do?
So matter of fact, I did speak with the superintendent last week, and one of the conversations that we were looking at is changing some of our uniforms over that are not necessarily required by the league to have white. So for example, the baseball team, eliminating the white game pants out of the baseball team. They're not required to have white game pants for baseball, and that would be one of the uniforms we could target to get a darker gray or green game pant that would not show with the white. Teams that are required to have white, we can't petition away from them, like soccer, for example, has to have a full white top and white bottom, basketball, white top and white bottom. So some of them are required no matter what, and those are just regulations from the National Federation of High School and around the Scholastic League. But there are a few teams that we can move away from that would be part of our decision-making process here. If we were to allocate new uniforms, we would, for those teams that we can, get away from the white.
Okay. Can you put together a schedule of what you would recommend? I'm going to say, so this would be my proposal, and obviously the committee would have to approve it, and the NSAA would have to approve it. But if we were to spend, let's say, $40,000 on uniforms and ask the NSAA to pay half of it, I'm wondering if that would be something that this committee would welcome, or is that too much money, or how do we want to proceed? I think the NSA is willing to help us. I don't know. Obviously, they haven't voted on it. I only asked if they were willing to do this as a one-time help to us, understanding that most of the complaints to them are based on uniforms.
I would like to ask for some help, but I would also ask, do we ever send anything out at the end of the season to have it professionally cleaned to see how they come out after the fact?
Yes, we do actually do that. That's a good question to ask. So the two uniforms that do go out professionally to be cleaned are your football ones and your boys hockey ones. Those go out for what's called reconditioning, and they do try to get those back up to speed as best as we can. We have not had any type of laundry service for other teams. So not sure on that aspect of things where we could go with that.
I mean,
Um,
you tried it versus brand new uniforms. They may work wonders. They get white tablecloths clean from restaurants. I don't know. I'm just looking for an option. And I also, as you know, my kids were in school when they started threatening to cut athletics when we come to budget time.
yes.
And I wouldn't want to be cutting athletics when I can cut uniforms. Or at least change that requirement of white. Apparently, none of those people have ever done laundry. Well, maybe,
Believe me, I'm in support of that 100%. I wish they would move away from that.
I mean,
Um,
look to think if we can approach them and ask about a change of color, possibly send anything white, whether it be tennis, basketball, golf, whatever, through a laundry service and see what happens. Just to keep that, budgets become an issue.
So I think what we in hearing what you're saying, what we could potentially do is if we wanted to, as we added in uniforms potentially or replace them that are white, maybe put in some type of process where we can launder them out with a professional launder service so that we may be able to maintain that cleanliness as fast as we can with the white ones, starting as we go forward for just those teams that are required to have white uniforms.
I think it makes sense to at least try it rather than
Yep.
hand out uniforms the next season and
Yep.
having parents get really upset the way the uniforms look. I mean, if we're going through the process of a home game uniform and an away game uniform, and they both look awful, it's not working. So let's try and see if we can get a contribution towards the uniform, but also be smart with what we're buying and not buy something that can't be cleaned.
Matt, how often are the uniforms cleaned? Is it after a game? The family throws it in the washing machine?
Yes, so that would be the expectation, is that the parents and the athletes themselves are washing their uniforms following the conclusion of a game. And that's the expectation, is that is what is being done. Now, does every single high school kid do their own laundry or get their laundry done correctly? I don't know if I could attest to that, unless the parents themselves were putting it into the washing machine for them. But, the expectation is, I mean, we just had this situation happen with boys soccer this year where they had white uniforms and went on the road and played a game at West Warwick, and the field was covered with 4 inches of mud. And so when they came off of that field, those white uniforms were loaded with mud, and I had some parents go home and use OxyClean and some high-end stuff and send me pictures later on that night saying, we ran these through 3 wash cycles already, and this is the best we could get them clean. And that was done that very night with some high-end detergent stuff. So again, a lot of it will depend on how much mud, how much it caked on, and then how fast we got them into laundry machines.
So outside of the laundering after a game at home, what kind of frequency would you be able to collect the uniforms and run it through a laundry service to do the restoration?
So I think that could be done at the conclusion of every season. You could send them either to professional dry cleaners or a laundry service. Once the season ends, you could send that if we were keeping up with regular washing of the uniforms by the student athletes and the parents throughout the regular season. But the ability to try to collect uniforms like halfway through the season and try to wash them through, I think would be too much of an undertaking. I don't think that would be a viable option unless we had an in-house laundry service potentially, or something along that nature where we had laundry machines and stuff inside the schools where we could potentially try to wash them. But that's just my quick thinking off my feet right now.
I have a quick question. Is it possible that our JV baseball team boys are wearing 22-year-old uniforms?
No, that is incorrect. I know that that was a rumor that was out there. If I remember correctly, those uniforms were bought. So those were uniforms we had were varsity uniforms. When I came into the district in around 2008, 2009, those were being used for our varsity baseball team. And then when we ordered the new set of uniforms that baseball has, those varsity uniforms were kicked down to the JV team and they used those ones.
Okay. And the only reason I asked that is that that's what's printed on the sheet that you provided for us, so.
Yeah, so we had JV uniforms, but we didn't replace them because I believe it was back when either Steve Reynolds was here or someone was coaching baseball. We had put pinstripe uniforms that they had bought, the short sleeve pinstripe ones. Someone had made a mention that they were the ones that were Paul LaFave used when he was playing baseball back in the 70s for the high school. And I said, no, that's not accurate at all. But again, this is the exact situation where we have a good amount of varsity uniforms. And one of the thoughts is to just expand on some of our uniforms. So in other words, add maybe 10 more varsity uniforms and just eliminate those JV uniforms completely out. And then having 10 more, we would now have enough to outfit the varsity and the JV all in the same uniform. The more newer style is what we'd be looking to do and try to phase out some of these really old JV style uniforms that we've held.
Thank you. Just clarification.
Yep.
It was Steve Reynolds and those JV uniforms were purchased by the parents. Because we,
Oh,
we had a group of parents who had a connection to an artist who did a Northman logo T-shirt,
Mhm.
and every player was responsible to sell so many, and we raised the money to buy the uniform.
I believe, and that was before everything changed, and now the uniforms are the sole responsibility of the school districts.
I think they were then too, but we chose to do it because we didn't like the way our kids looked.
Okay.
that is correct.
I guess the other thing, which is a related but unrelated issue, would be, just looking at all of the sports and making sure that, the right number of teams are the right number of teams. I mean, I don't want to, I would hate to cut a program, but at the end of the day, I guess we'd rather have, I guess I don't know what that answer is, where I put my foot in my mouth.
Right. I think the budget, when the town comes back to us and we start cutting, I would never want to cut a program, but have to figure out the cost of the uniform, because it's a big number. It's a
Yes.
big number.
Yes. This is something that I have illustrated before numerous times with the school committee that, that you asked that question, and that's a very loaded question, as you said, with what is the right number of teams? And I have said all along, as the community kept adding on team after team after team during my tenure here, that was going to be a very high price tag to be carrying as we went on. And, we offer a tremendous amount of athletic opportunities here in the district of North Smithfield in comparison to our larger high schools across the state. So we have a plethora of offerings to these kids. But again, when you have 32 teams between the high school and the middle school, that budget is always going to be proportionally high because of the number of teams you're offering.
We look at this every year with the budget, and we see the athletics budget is higher than the high school budget. Not saying it's not important. It's just that it's going to require more resources to maintain the level that we're currently running at. As we can hear, I mean, there are a lot of complaints from parents that our kids, their uniforms don't look great, or they're getting dirty, or they're gray, or they're not crisp. They're playing. They have the sport, they have the team, they have the opportunity from a very small high school comparatively.
And I think one thing I do want to put out to the committee that I think is very important is when you start having any type of conversation, such as what is the right number of sports, or if we were looking at trying to reduce the budget or the cost, you would then have to start figuring out which sports would give you the biggest reduction if you were to remove them, because some sports don't cost the district much money at all. So for example, like tennis is not a very expensive sport. So if you would eliminate some of those kind of low-lying sports, you're not going to make a big dent in the reduction of the budget. But you have to start looking at sports like hockey and things of that nature, and in order to make a kind of serious reduction there. But I don't think anyone would want to be in a position to try to determine which sport was more important to a kid than another. And it's not upon a child to have to feel that, well, I play hockey, it's not fair that my sport costs so much. I don't control that, versus whether I was a cross-country runner and my sport doesn't cost much. So again, those are some very like tough conversation points that might have to be considered down the line if this was the case. But obviously we would try to want to avoid that, because that would really start pitting sport against sport in a very small community.
And there's a movement or a petition to try to get girls hockey,
We did
you
that
know,
one.
and again, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the girls. But with the understanding that coaching and transportation and uniforms and it adds a lot to the budget.
So can we, is anybody interested in committing any funds to purchase uniforms by recommendation of Mr. Tech? Understanding that we would have to go, that I would go to the NSAA and ask them to match it.
Is it possible that Matt could give us a list of the most important
Yeah.
ones and what the cost would be, and then we could settle on a dollar amount at that point, as opposed to backing into it?
Yeah. Yeah, and we would also need to do it within this year's budget lead time for the orders. I don't know, Matt, how, if we were to order a new set of uniforms, how long does it take for them to be able to fabricate a new?
So, yeah, in order to meet the deadline, which I know we would have to have everything in place and billed and paid for by June 30th, we would want to be making sure that we were ordering all of our uniforms throughout the month of March and maybe the first 2 weeks of April. At that point, you would give yourself enough time to have them manufactured and delivered and billed accordingly to meet our deadline of June 30th. So I would not push anything beyond the first 2 weeks of April, so that we can have plenty of time to make sure we hit that deadline.
So Matt, you can give us a list of the most, of what you recommend needs to be replaced, understanding that we have a budget.
Yes, I can get you the prices on those and give you kind of recommendation on that. The only one that I've mentioned that was going to be of any time sensitivity would be football, if we were doing it this year, because it's going to be 20% more in cost past this past Friday. And I had already done that one out to be 14,000 on that one, but that's the only one that was of time sensitivity to pricing.
How bad are the uniforms?
They're okay. The white ones are the ones that are going to need to be replaced. So if we wanted to do half, we could cut that in half and only do half again. It's a question of, again, the prerogative of, we would have half new ones and half old ones. And I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but we could do that if we're looking about trying to be fiscally responsible here in a way.
Now, when you say half, you mean like half the white? We would just do the white?
No, like all the whites, like just doing like the whites, which would be kind of like your road uniform. So we would do all the road uniforms.
And the price goes up Friday.
So the price will increase on, as this Friday, will be 20% more than what the cost is right now. They're on sale through Friday,
And
just football.
this is an MPA, so we can order directly.
Can we find out if we can opt out of the white?
I can make another call to the league on that request from the committee. I don't know if they'll approve that, but I have no problem making a call to the league office.
Okay, if we can find out. That would be good. I mean, the white is such a mistake.
So, and Matt, you're saying it's 14,000 to replace both sets?
If we did the full program over in one shot,
Let's do the white set.
if we did the white set, it would be about 7,000.
Chairman, and make a motion for the white uniforms with understanding that could still, Mr. Tech could still inquire as to whether or
Right.
not we can get, authorize him to do it, but still inquire. You don't have to tell them we authorized you, you can just, not to hide it, but just don't have to announce it.
Right.
You could even say, I'm authorized to get the whites, but there's a question about, do we have to have the whites? And if they say, well, there's some wiggle room, maybe you don't want to order them, but if it's, no, there's no wiggle room at all, then we order them. So I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the purchase. I don't have the dollar figure in front of me, but as recommended by Mr. Tech, for the purchase of at this time, for the white colored, football uniforms with the understanding Mr. Tech is going to inquire about if we can get a waiver on using those white uniforms or being required to use the white uniform.
Yep.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second,
Second. So discussion?
So are we basically authorizing $14,000? No,
Seven.
that's, are we doing half of them?
No.
That's,
We're doing
Just
all
the
the
white.
whites,
Okay.
not the dark whites.
Specifically because the price is going to go up.
right, no, I get that.
Yeah,
Now, white is the away color or the home?
They're away. They're away for football.
Away. Okay.
It depends on the sport. Correct, Matt? It's.
Yeah, it's correct. Yes. So, for example, white is used at home for basketball, but white is used on the road for soccer and for football.
There you go. You got all that?
I shake my head too as well. Trust me, I shake my head as well too.
Okay, so right now, we're voting for just the white.
Yeah.
Okay, is that okay with everyone?
That's the motion, 7,000 for the white.
Okay, and with the understanding, if you get approval, order gold, and they allow you to
Yes,
order gold. Or
correct.
what?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Tech.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
But let me follow up. Earlier, you had also asked outside of the football, the one that we discussed, to come up with a amount for the other uniforms.
Yes.
You're
Right.
still
Yes.
going ahead with that.
Yes.
We're going to put together a priority list and pricing. And we fall within the March school committee that we can bring to you. And
I'll work with the NSAA.
right, so we'll get you that information, work with the NSAA, and then we can have something on the March school committee meeting.
I think it's.
Okay.
fair. The only reason we're doing the football uniforms is because there's a specific cost savings to doing
That's
it
right.
tonight.
Yes.
We
I
can
just
still
want to
wait.
clarify the next step.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, moving on to executive session. So I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246(5)(a)(3). Vote, a discussion vote or other action on regarding security, including to, but not limited to, the deployment of security personnel and devices, discussion regarding the measures being taken to ensure the safety, security of our students.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay,
Wait, roll call. Oh,
oh, sorry, go.
did you need to talk?
Nope,
Oh.
nope, after the roll call.
Roll call? That's okay. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to pause the recording.
Yep.
Turn off the mic and the video. And then after the executive session, I will turn audio and video back on and resume the recording.
Moving back into open session, I'll entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Roll call, please. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We're in open session now. I'll entertain a motion to seal the record.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. I just wanted to make a statement that there were no votes in executive session. I also, moving on to item number 4, statement and or action related to measures taken for safety, security of our students. I just wanted to make a statement on the record that our top priority is the safety and security of our children. I also just wanted to say that we are not going to tolerate bullying or fighting in our schools. And Superintendent, thank you for all your work on this. Anybody else have any further statements? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Very good.